All right, so let's talk specifically about the legislative session that we have going on currently here in Connecticut. I know last year there was a whole bunch of stuff, and I encourage people to go back and check out our episodes to see what was going on then. I mean, maybe you can give us a little recap because I know some of the stuff then gets carried over whatever they don't get done. So give us a little update on where we are, what's going on, and what we should be expecting.
So I think we have a couple of really bad bills. One of them is SB 207. It's a housing authority jurisdiction bill. And that would allow a housing authority from any municipality to expand their area of operation into another town without the other town's permission. And so that's one of the bills where, if you want to collaborate, if you don't have the technology and the experience, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead. But if you do, then you shouldn't have to be imposed upon by another community who wants to just build in your town. So that's one of
I
the
don't even understand that. I don't like how can they just be like, we're just gonna build here? Like it's we know it's your town. We know there's that little thing called like the border, but we're just not into borders these days, I guess. Right
and
here is the bill.
unaccountable people having people build in your community who are unaccountable to your local residents. And then we've got a situation where we have towns like cities like New Haven who have a huge amount of vouchers, and so they have so many vouchers and they say they can't use them, so they said, okay, well, we're going to go build elsewhere so we can use our vouchers in your town. And so, our thought is, why are you not giving the vouchers to the towns more equitably? Wouldn't that make more sense than
Right. And what does New Haven get out of having the vouchers? Like, do they make so much money off of each voucher or something?
follow the
Like,
money? Follow the money. So I think at least 10% of a voucher ends up going to the as overhead to the housing authority. So, we're talking about hundreds of millions that's going to New Haven Housing Authority right now in voucher, money. So it is an astounding number. And it's interesting if you think about that. And there's one of the graphics that's on our website. There was that little pie chart that you pulled up before. And what that essentially shows you is that 19 towns get 85% of the vouchers, and the other 150 towns share 15% of the vouchers. So it's such a tiny, so one town will have 33 vouchers and they have 7,500. So it's astronomical, the inequity that's going on there. So that's one of them. Another bill that's really bad is they want to have to eliminate local municipal design review. And in states with beautiful historic buildings and things like that, it's a real concern for our communities. I mean, that's I think what draws a lot of people to Connecticut, our state, is just the beauty of it. And the idea that, if 830G, as we talked about, can override design review, but it would require you to build 30% affordable. So what we see in a lot of these bills pushed by developers is we just want to override these rules, and we just don't want to build affordable while we're doing it. So it's the irony of they pretend to be for affordability and for the average common person, but they really aren't. It's all about lining the developers' pockets and making sure it costs them less to build. So that's another bad bill. And then another one is they want to have church properties to be allowed as of right to build up to 8 homeless shelters without sewer, sanitation, without kitchens, without running water. And we wonder, it's and so no health and safety review by your local community. And we've read, I mean, you can Google nationwide, there's issues with these shelters and the sort of litigation and going to court over different issues that's happening on, everywhere with these things. And I think it's not humane. It's not,
yeah. Well,
it doesn't
I
dignity.
think it's not fair to the taxpayers because I mean, there was somebody who I know who was making like a more pure libertarian argument. They're like, well, churches should be able to do like whatever they want with their property. And I'm like, all right, like if we were operating in a pure free market society, like, okay, but we're not. When you start bringing in people to live in homeless shelters, they're going to then put take advantage of other social services that the taxpayers provide, right? So it's not just, oh, like churches should be able to do what they want with their property. There's so
Right.
many other things that would become then a burden on the taxpayers. And again, it's not, I know there's a lot of people out there who need services, who need these other things, but it's not a humane way to provide it by essentially forcing these unfunded things onto towns.
And where
Yeah.
does your property rights begin and my property rights end, right? So you want the church to be, but what about the other neighboring homes and the light and noise and all of the other things that could be impacted by a different use that's not what you bargained for when you purchased your home, or where you live. So it's concerning. So that's another one. Then there's again, it's really that as of right development that we're seeing a lot. There's as of right, they want to convert industrial buildings and commercial buildings into residential as of right. Again, no review. You have concerns with potential environmental issues with possible industry usage that had happened in the past that no one's now having proper oversight of. And those, and also the idea that you have a mix in all of these communities of your industrial base, your commercial base, and your residential. And so if you're eliminating your commercial and your industrial base, your future burdens are going to be much higher on your residential property owners. And that's a really a steep thing. And again, you're just then going to increase property taxes. And so you have to really look at the unintended or fully recognizable consequences. And I think many times everybody's got blinders on and like just build and no real consideration of what these actually mean in the long run, because you want to have economic viability, because the only way you truly improve affordability anywhere is by turning the economics around and having growth and having salaries increase and better job opportunities. And that's really the challenge in all of this. And that's, I think, a national issue right now, is that we've seen such high inflation in property values and in rental costs and everything, but the salaries are what has not kept up with it.
Yeah, and I would just add, we're talking about this notion of as of right. We've seen it all over these bills, and so that means that it's already in the zoning regulations. So it doesn't need a public hearing. And I'm a zoning commissioner in my community, and I would say when people come to speak in favor or against a certain application or project, they really provide very critical, valuable information about the land, because they know it best. They know traffic patterns. They know when little kids are crossing the street to go to school. And getting rid of, divorcing the public from zoning and from decision making is just not good policy, and that's not something that we want to create in Connecticut. So we're the Constitution state, for Pete's sake, and so as of right is just cropping up. I haven't seen it. We've just seen it so many times this year. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I want to look more into this term and what it's being used for, because it seems like it's being inverted, right? Like whose rights, what's the government's role here and who has rights and who gives us our rights? Like I think we need to sort some things out here and get back to some basics.
Yeah.
And I just can't help but to think of how this is just central planning, right? This is the
Yeah.
state is doing central planning. And I mean, I taught some history courses in my day. I was known to do that at one point. And, that was the definition we gave of communism. Like this is supposed to be America. It's supposed to be, democracy, freedom, capitalism. And the government's out here just telling us like how much our houses should cost and how many houses we should build or shouldn't build and where they should be built and who gets to build them and who doesn't get to build them. It seems insane.
Yeah. And then there's another bill. I mean, Desegregate Connecticut has been around for a number of years here, and their bill is back yet again, and they're trying to mandate, so it's an opt-in, they say, but if you don't opt in, then you're deprioritized for certain funding resources. So, it's again, it's the stick always. They
What's
just, they
the bill
can't.
called?
What's that? I'm sorry. Oh, it's called, it's HB 5390, and it's desegregated Connecticut's transit-oriented communities. And what they're doing is mandating, again, as of right development. So you have to set up a transit area, which we're all for transit development. And there exists, last year, a bill that passed that was a good bill was MRDA, MRDA, Municipal Redevelopment Authority. And so that helps people to different municipalities to decide if they want to do a development and they need some funding for some resources around their transit area. They can request funding resources. But now this is going to take it to a different level, and they want to start another funding source, but then they're going to mandate as of right middle housing development. So anything up to 9 units as of right within this transit area. And again, no consideration of whether your local infrastructure can handle that much development and that much density everywhere, because you can't then control what's being done up to 9 units in each lot. And then on 830G, they want to take away the review, which is the only review you can have is health and safety. And so again, they want to take away health and safety review. And then churches and nonprofits can build as of right as well. And again, it's just the idea that you're just deprioritizing certain groups, certain towns, and you're forcing this quick development that, again, can be very overwhelming to the infrastructure of a community. And as we've said, it's those local stewards who are the ones who are going to make sure that you're not overwhelming infrastructure, that there's no traffic hazards, that are all those other little factors that come into play in planning and zoning that you want to make sure to keep and protect your environment and your community.
And so what can people do?
And I think we have to remember, sorry,
I think there might be a little delay or something between us. I'm sorry. I was just gonna did you want to add something on to that? Okay, because I was gonna say
just really quickly,
yeah, go ahead, add on.
Yeah, really quickly. Sorry about the delay. Maybe it's on my end. I would just say, remind people that land use controls and zoning, they're more than just affordable housing. Land use controls and zoning are really about balanced growth and development in our communities. They prevent congestion. They protect property values. They recognize, and we recognize that here in Connecticut. And I think we are an aspirational society where we have towns that are more than able to determine our own community needs and goals. So I would just want to leave that with your audience.
And we're accountable. So those who are locally elected are, easily removed from office if they're not doing right by their residents. And so these are the people you see in your grocery store and the people you see in your streets and in your schools, and they'll let you know what they're thinking about what's happening in your community. And that's the best check and balance you have. And I think that's unfortunately what's happening now at the state level is it's leaders and legislators that aren't focused on the issues that matter most to the communities that they represent. And that's what's really sad to me is, there's been a lot of focus on the larger cities and they wield a lot of power, and these smaller communities are getting marginalized. And that's the unfortunate thing here.
Yeah. So what can people do to take action, right? Because it is unfortunate and it does seem like, we're on sort of the losing side, but there are ways we can take action, because I've seen over the past 2 years that I've been paying attention and seeing what you've been doing, that you have had a lot of impact, whether it's in stopping bills, whether it's in significantly changing the language of bills, whether it's getting them sort of dumbed down to studies, which like studies aren't great, but it's like not the thing that they wanted it to be. So what can people be doing right now? Obviously go to your website, but I imagine the bills are at different places, like, whether there's public comment or whether they should just be emailing their reps. Tell me what people should be doing.
So right now we're out of committee on all the bills. So some of the bills, so there are bills that are dead. Well, we'll say that those bill numbers are dead, but the concepts never really die, because we have things like dummy bills as well, which are blank slate. They just pass a bill that means nothing, and then they can put 100 pages of language in it at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, let's say, and have something onerous in there. So one never knows what one we will see at the end of the last week of session is when those are ripe to come out. But
and that's the official term. I had to look it up, and it's actually on the General Connecticut website of glossary of terms, dummy bill. I'm like, I was dumbfounded. You could say.
Yeah, 4 of them. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So what we recommend right now is it's a little bit of a lull right now, but in the next week we're going to start seeing it start to ratchet up. They're going to start calling bills to the floor, and that's when it's going to really be critical for people to pay attention. So if you follow us, if you're in Connecticut and you follow us on Facebook, we'll let you know when we know, which is always usually last minute, last 24 hours. But we let people know when bills are going to go to the floor, when you need to send petitions and email your representative, email the governor. And we'll have quick links. We're working on setting up the quick link with all of the bills of concern. So you can send that to your legislators, and we will have call outs, we'll have responses, we'll ask people to call their legislators to let them know. We'll be up in Hartford too at some point during the session as it gets closer. And so it's all out, just making sure that we get better language in the bills. We collaborate with everybody that we can. We form alliances where we can, and hope to stop the bad bills and get some good ones passed so we can get some real good changes made up in Hartford.
Yeah, and I know you said Facebook. I'm more of like a Twitter kind of person, and I know you guys are on fire over there, so I imagine all the stuff you're posting over there is very similar to what you find over here. So like they said, I guess in the next week, these bills are going to start coming up to the floor, and what you need people to do would be to, like you said, fill out those petitions, but then would there also be those opportunities to make public comment? Is that what these are as well?
No, that portion is unfortunately over.
That's only when they're in the in the committee. So now they're going to go out to the main floor, so you can fill out the petitions. You can call your representatives directly. You can go up there. I'd love to go up. Like, let me know what day you're going up there. Maybe we could do some on the ground coverage of it. If there's any good politicians that we should go and chase with the camera and ask them questions, you can point them out to me and tell me what questions to ask them. Those are always really good videos. I have some good ones from when I was up at the state capitol in New York, in Albany, and I got into the elevator with this guy Dinowitz, who's a big pharma shill. He puts out all the most horrible bills about how the state can do any pharmaceutical intervention that they want to your kids and stuff. And so I got in the elevator with him with my camera, and I asked him all these questions, and he ran away from me when he finally got up. I would love to do that to some Connecticut lawmakers about housing or whatever the deal is. So
yeah.
Awesome. All right. So
people again.
What was that? Sorry.
It's an election year. It's an election year. I'm sorry about this delay.
Oh, it's an election year. Okay, yes.
It's an election
Talk
year,
about it.
And we just have to remember, our legislators do work for us, and do not be shy about emailing them, contacting them. When you run into them at the Cub Scouts event, ask them what do they think about the zoning bills, and get their feedback.
Absolutely, and we keep track. We keep track, and unfortunately, there is an imbalance here in Connecticut. So it's 2/3 Democrat, 1/3 Republican. So if they want to pass something, they can, and it really does matter. But when there's a lot of public outcry, because these issues are not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's unfortunate that it's really one side that's pushing these agenda items, but really, the public is not that way. We have supporters on both sides of the aisle who all agree that these are not good. It's just not good policy. There are plenty of great people on both sides who are very strong about this and really make wonderful points on how this should not happen, and that we really need to maintain local control, and they just it's unfortunate, but this is the best way to do it, is to really let them know, and especially the Democrats, because when they know that Democrats are not happy, then they really listen. So it's good.
Yeah. And I am a Democrat. I'm registered as a Democrat. I hang out with Democrats. I
Good.
support Democratic candidates, and I can tell you that's true. Down here in Stanford, we had the RAP bill, which we talked about last year. Like, Stanford is one of the major places that they're going super hard with the development, and they're taking like what was Stanford was a city, but it still has like that town feel, like a small, like kind of a small town feel at the same time, and it has a lot of little cute neighborhoods, but they're really just like trying to build up everywhere. And doesn't matter if you're the D or an R next to your name. People who live their whole lives here are just like, this is too much. And we don't have control. It's these outside people coming in, developers coming in, or people up at the state coming in. So thank you guys so much for what you do. I know I speak for a lot of people. I know because like whenever I mention your names and what you guys, oh yeah, like I love what they're doing. So I know your email list is growing. I encourage everybody, if you're not on it, to get on it, get involved. There's still time left in this legislative session to make a difference. Make sure you go to CT169. Strong.org. Follow them on Facebook, follow them on X, follow them on Instagram. They're on all the platforms. Give them your support, give them your dollars. It goes directly to the good guys that are up in Hartford.
Come on.